I remember you telling me the story that you saw some guy who
Oh, yes.
and he showed
Yeah.
you how much money he was making. It was kind of like that
Yes.
famous Wolf of Wall Street scene where Jonah Hill asked Leonardo DiCaprio, "Tell me how much money you made last month." He takes out a check, $70,000. He's like, "You made that last month? All right, I'm calling to quit my job. I'm going to start working for you." It was that kind of moment. Tell us what happened there.
Yeah. So back to my first career as a hairdresser.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever Medicare Masterclass podcast. My name is Vlad Trochenko. Here with me, I have Rob McAfee and Ashely VanGundy. Rob and I are going to be interviewing Ashely, who has built a mega agency in Medicare. And Ashely, is it safe to say that Medicare is a lonely world where there's not a whole lot of people to talk to when you're performing at a high level or maybe just getting started? Is that safe to assume?
Yeah, so it was definitely lonely my first year, and that was kind of something that I had to overcome. And now I look at this point 6 years in, and I'm like, I miss some of those lonely times in my office, but really I don't. But it can be a lonely world, especially if you're just getting started or maybe haven't had the best support.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that question is because when you're doing something like selling insurance, a lot of times you don't have people around you that you can bounce ideas off of, and you can't really learn
Yeah.
from others because a lot of people try to keep the best ideas and strategies close to their chest where they don't want to share what's working for them. We're going to do the exact opposite in the Medicare Masterclass podcast. So we're going to unveil all the secrets that make the best Medicare agents perform the way that they do. And we're going to have guests come on the podcast. But the very first guest will be the regular co-host, Ashely. And we're going to get to know you a little better. The audience is going to get to know you a little better. We're going to ask about your background, see how you got into this industry 6 years ago, and then fast forward to now, recording this in early 2024. You have 6,000 policies in place. And if you do simple math and you average it out, 6 years in the business, 6,000 policies. Rob, how many policies is that a year?
I mean, that's close to 1,000 a year, huh?
1,000 a year. If only it was so linear in life. It wasn't
Yeah.
so linear. It started off slower and it picked up over time. Now you do 1,000 policies in one AEP. We're going to get all into the juicy stuff here in just a moment. But first, for agents who maybe are just getting into Medicare and you don't really know the financial opportunity and how much money you can make in the business, something that Jesse Dreyer and Ashely, you have told me, is that for a simple way to think about how much money you can earn in the Medicare industries, for every 1,000 policies that you have in, say, a Medicare Advantage plan, you would get paid $25,000 a month in recurring revenue. So if you have 1,000 policies, you get paid $25K. If you have 2,000 policies, you get paid $50K a month, and so on. So you can really build a high paying recurring business and do that in a industry that, yes, is very regulated, which is a good thing, but
But it's
there's
booming.
not a lot of service work. It's booming, and there's not a lot of service work compared to other kinds of insurance that you sell. So with all that said, take us back 6 years ago, Ashely, when you first got into Medicare. Prior to that, what were you doing and what got you into Medicare in the first place?
Well, it was a lonely, lonely world. I'll let you know that. I was in a little office. It was probably like 10 by 10, maybe even a little bit smaller on a second story of a kind of like a co-op building. And what got me into it is really, I have always loved working with seniors. I have a dad that has a publishing company that works with seniors. So I've always kind of worked alongside him. You mentioned Jesse Dreyer, so that's my fiance, and he has a successful, thriving PNC agency. I initially was working in that, and then I was like, okay, I want you to be my fiance, but not my boss. So I got into Medicare, and I've just loved it. I feel like it fulfills my heart, my need, like I just want to do this forever. It's been the best career choice that I've ever made, but that's how I got started in it. And yeah, the first year was really lonely. didn't really have a lot of people to meet with. I didn't have the best support from my upline. Kind of how me and Vlad and this all came together too is we just saw a huge need in the market for training. Like I struggled so bad my first year, and to the point where my fiance was like, I think you need to go get a regular job and just be employed because I don't think this is
Wow.
working out. So, yeah, so fast forward to now, don't really look at the numbers all the time, but I mean, like you said, Vlad, we have, 6,000 policies, so you can kind of do the math on what that would be like. We are doing, I know, over 7 figures a year in just our renewal income. And it's been such a blessing in so many different ways, being able to help people and then also being able to earn a good income where I can share it and help other people and, have a savings and retirement. And so it's been huge for me.
There was someone early in your Medicare career, this is prior to you getting into Medicare, that I remember you telling me the story that you saw some guy
Oh,
who
yes.
and he
Yeah.
showed you how much money he was making. It was kind of like
Yes.
that famous Wolf of Wall Street scene where Jonah Hill asked Leonardo DiCaprio, "Show me how much money you made last month." He takes out a check, $70,000. So you made that last month? All right, I'm calling to quit my job. I'm going to start working for you. It was that kind of moment. Tell us what happened there.
Yeah, so before this, I mean, I have my real estate license, and I've tried a few different careers. I was a hairdresser for like 7 years. So this is back to my first career as a hairdresser. I had a salon that I ran that was right next to a Medicare insurance agent. And so we became friends. We would talk sometimes, and I'd be like, hey, like I noticed your gate's down. And he's like, oh yeah, I go on vacation all the time. And telling me all this cool stuff. And I'm like, really? You just lock up? You don't have any employees and you just go on vacation? And he was like, yeah, it's great. And then I remember one day he got his commission check and he was like, look at this. And I was like, is that what I think it says? And so I think it was like 30 some thousand or something for a month. And I was like, that's awesome. And a couple years later, and we still stayed really great friends. He's actually been a huge mentor to me, and I want to be that for other people because he was really the person that helped me because I had an upline my first year. I didn't get next to any support. I mean, 6 years ago, imagine your upline asking you to fax in apps. I mean, that just seems crazy to me that I was even doing that, but it would take days to get responses. And so he was the person that I would talk to a lot. And so I am so grateful for him, and we're still great friends. And he's so proud of me and excited for everything that, we've been able to do and get to where we are at this point.
Yeah, I think having a moment like that in your life is super awesome because not only do you find a mentor to kind of help you go up the ranks, but then once you do get kind of on track to where you want to be, you tend to look back and like, okay, who can I have that moment with and kind of spread that type of energy. So I think that's pretty
Because
cool.
there's enough for everyone. That's the coolest thing about Medicare is like the way I see it is there's so many people that need our help. I mean, literally need an agent. They need somebody. Like it's not, they're so grateful. They need you. And to be able to be that person, there really can't be enough of us. And, all the baby boomers aging in, it's the time.
Yeah,
10,000.
yeah. I think I heard this might have been a few years ago, but the peak isn't for a while, right? With the baby boomers, they're not even all 65 yet.
No, yeah, like it's a full 10 years. And I think we're like 3 years in to, I think 3 years now, maybe into it. And
Yeah.
so there's still a really huge wave of people that are aging into Medicare and need help.
Yeah, huge opportunity. So, Ashley, kind of walk us through. You've been here for 6 years now. Start with with year one and kind of walk us through some of the big milestones? I know you said it was lonely in the beginning. So how did
Yeah.
that progression work? So year one to year six.
Yeah, so year one, I was really just trying to kind of figure everything out. I mean, I took it upon myself to like I would go to RSVP or like those ship meetings that they have for Medicare and Social Security, and I'd be like there, and everyone else would be like 65 plus, and they'd be like, "Why are you here?" And I'm like, "I just need to learn this stuff." And so I would just sign up and go to those meetings. It was really kind of a year that I started really kind of just absorbing the information. And there came a point where I was at this crossroads where I had absorbed enough information. I just didn't quite have that confidence yet to like go out there and talk about my business and be like, "Hey, I'm Ashely. I do Medicare. I love to help people." And so I remember being at this crossroads where I was like, I had this talk with my fiance, like, maybe this isn't, going to be the best, thing for me. And it was shortly before that I had decided myself that like, hey, if I don't talk about my business and I'm not my number one fan and I don't believe in myself, then nobody else is. And that was kind of like the turning point for me where I just got out of my own way and out of my own head. And I just started getting out there. And it was a totally different feeling. Like before I had this feeling like of I'm going to get rejected. I'm going to annoy people. People are going to be like, "Please leave my office," like, or something. But when I got out of my own way, the reception and what I got from people was like so appreciative, so grateful. And I actually started marketing. And it took, till that AEP to like that annual enrollment period to really see it come to fruition. But as soon as that AEP came, that was like the first one the one before that I had done like, I think maybe 40 apps. And then this one I had done 150. And
Oh,
I
wow.
guess other pivotal thing that had changed is I had changed my upline. Super important to surround yourself with support, whether that be your upline should be your support. They're getting compensated based off of your sales. And so they should be your cheerleaders too in your corner. And so when I did that, it was just night and day different. Like before, it would take 3-4 days to get a question answered or an email reply back. And in sales, if it takes 3 or 4 days, you could lose that sale. So that was year one to year two. And I remember at that point, I told my fiance, "I want to hire my first employee." And he was like, "No, you're not." You just finally made like some decent money, like for you, like you can't hire somebody right now. And I was like, but I have to because I see this opportunity coming up that I have to take full advantage of. And it actually we had an exit of a cost plan. And so we had a disruption.
Mm.
And so that was something about timing and literally everything in this business. Being in the right place at the right time definitely helps, and just putting yourself and that energy out there that you want to be that person in the right place at the right time, and you will be. And so moving forward, it just year over year doubled. Like I just grew and grew to the point where I did 1,000 policies in a year, and then I did 2,000, and then I did 3,000 policies
Wow.
this year. So it's just kind of been a snowball effect.
Man, 3,000 policies in a year. That's incredible. And I'm glad that you brought up the point about bringing on an employee and bringing on a team, because if I understand this right, most Medicare agents go through their entire career, like 95% of them, and they just sell on their own. They do sales, service, they handle the marketing. So I know that you said you've seen a huge opportunity, and that's what made you bring on a team. Is that all it was, or how did you kind of justify bringing on a team, and not only that, bringing on them so quick? So what was your thought process with that?
So it was really just kind of like thinking about like I can never make this what I want it to be, all by myself. The other thing is I hate service work. I mean, I don't want to say hate. That's a really strong word. Like, I like to help people, like, through, but I'm more of like, I want to be out there. I want to be teaching classes. I want to be doing sales. I want to be doing events and like drawing people in. But when it comes to like service, some of that stuff is like more just like task. And I'm not as much driven by that. And so I was like, how can I do all of these different things and still market? And I'm like, there's no way I can. And if I'm not marketing, then people aren't coming. And if people stop coming, then my growth gets stagnant. And so I was just like, I kind of had this feeling of where and what I thought I could do. And I guess even a little funny thing is right before that, I bought my car before that first really good AEP, all on a credit card. And I was like, I have to make enough to pay that off. But
Buying a car and credit card, classic.
yeah, I did. It was like 20,000, and I was like, because I couldn't even get a loan because I was self-employed, and
Yeah.
Right.
they're like, but that
After
was
that first year, when you finished your first year, how much did you write and how much did you earn that first year? Because you hired your first employee going into your second year, right?
yeah,
And the reason
it
I ask
was.
is because
I went through one AEP with the other upline. I had like went through that. So it was, I guess, technically my second year. So my third year, yeah, my second year. And then that January, I switched uplines right before AEP almost. It was like September. And then that January is when I hired an employee. And it was just
okay,
kind of like, I know I got to do this. And so I
did you
just
hire
kind
them
of,
for sales?
what?
Did you hire them for sales or service?
I hired him for service just to always be at the front desk because at that time too, like, I mean, I really was like working super hard. Like during AEP, I didn't take one day off. I worked, 10, 12-hour days, like every day. I drove to people's houses and did in-home appointments too, which I have, some wild stories, but I
Wow.
don't do that now, but I was like going to people's homes. Like I would be in line at Taco Bell ordering like a burrito for lunch and be like making like outbound sales calls. Like I was just so like pumped on it. So I was really like working hard, but I knew that with me being out of the office and having a location that I couldn't, I needed somebody there to make sure that they could schedule appointments and do all of that stuff for me.
Yeah, and you've done it all when you look at the last 6 years as far as marketing strategies.
Yeah.
Can you share what one or two strategies that's worked best for you?
I think like in real estate too, they say location, location. We have a couple standing locations. So I have 4 locations now, which seems crazy. And we purchased 2 of them, but I did them all on high traffic areas where my signage is really good. And I knew from working in my dad's publishing company and advertising agency that if you're not marketing, then you need to keep marketing to keep growth coming. And so we continued to grow our marketing budget each year as we sold more and more policies. We would grow what we were spending out on marketing. But I would say location was huge. Also, just networking, referrals are huge. Like anybody you help, like we call them like super fans. Like we have some people that are literally like, I mean, if you look, you could Google us, but you could look at our reviews. I mean, some of them write like 2 paragraphs. I don't know if it's the generation and they're just so grateful and like they'll really express what they want to say, but they'll write like 2 paragraphs of like the nicest stuff. And so I think tapping into those people that you've already helped, they're going to be advocates for your business too. And but if you don't ask, I noticed a huge change in that too. That was like year after my first AEP. I started asking for referrals on every sale that I sold. I would send them with a couple cards like, hey, if you know anybody else that needs help with their Medicare, I would love to help them. I noticed a huge return on getting more referrals. It was almost like I had people that would come back to my office and need to restock up on cards. Like I would be
Wow.
like, what? Like we need more cards. We're out. I had a lady that told me I give away like different things like pens and shopping bags. And she's like, I gave away my calendar. I gave away my pen. I gave away my shopping bag. I even gave away my enrollment kit. So it's
Well,
because she was just like telling everyone about it. I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But I think looking at those things too, just the simple things like talking to current clients.
mhm.
Yeah, that's I think a large part of why your retention has been so high. It's over 90%. And compare that to other places that sell Medicare, it might be substantially lower because they have more of the call center approach where they never see the person who they sell to, the person who bought the Medicare policy never sees the person who sold it to them. It's all done over the phone. It's all about just closing the deal as quickly as possible. Whereas you took the approach of more of the grassroots route where you have a physical office space, signage
Mm.
outside, you're marketing all over. I'll never forget the story that, the guy who started Papa John's, my favorite pizza out there from all the chains, Papa John's. Um, he said his dad started this pizza joint. Rob, I don't know if you ever heard the story, but this guy's been sharing it recently. And his dad was going to close down the pizza shop because they were losing money. They it was just another failing business. But the product was really good. Their pizza was fantastic. So he was a kid at that time. He was like 17, 18 years old. He took over the business. He said, Dad, give me a few weeks and I'm going to turn this business around. He went all in. And one of the first things that he did was he went outside, set up signage. And he realized that no matter how good the product is, unless people know about it, they're not going to go in. And like even earlier today, I was in the downtown Grapevine area. Rob, you know where that is.
Yeah.
And I was walking down the street to my car, and I was passing this cafe. They had the door open. You can hear the music playing inside. They had tables outside, people sitting there drinking coffee. And I'm thinking, wow, there's a lot of businesses to the right of this cafe, a lot of business to the left of this business, but nobody's getting as much traction as this one. This business is marketing. They're actively marketing. They have signage out. They have a good ambience there. They're trying to grow. And I think that's the kind of approach that you took, Ashely, where you weren't a secret agent that you only had to find by calling you. You were publicly marketing, and that's really cool. And then um, passing out your merch. I will admit, in our agency, we don't pass out a whole lot of business card. It's all digital, and there's pros and cons for everything. But if you're going to sell to them in person, give away something of value, and especially for that generation, 65 and older, they love that kind of stuff. That's what
Yeah,
they
I'll
grew
show
up
you.
with.
I got these are like our pins, and you got to get good pins. You can't get the cheap. I mean they're still cost effective, but they're a little heavier. I'm a pin
Where do you get?
person, so if it's like one of those Bing pins, I don't want it. So you got to get a pin that someone. I have people come back just for my pins when they run out.
Wow, where do you get them?
Where do I get them on Pens? Isn't it like pens.com or
.com?
No.
I
National
remember that.
Pen? National Pen. I think it's National Pen, but yeah.
Huh.
Okay. Any
Pens.com.
other market? That's right. Easy to remember. Um, Ashely, any other marketing strategies that you've had that you found to be very beneficial for you?
Wow, we've had so many. So I think if you're starting out, right, don't overwhelm yourself with like what you need to do. I think first is like getting your mind right. Like you have to be, like I said, your number one fan, and you have to like have that energy and that charisma that's not like unique to you, but it needs to be like that you're passionate. Like, people all express passion in a different way, but you need to like convey that when you're talking to people, because I've had that when working with referral partners where, I'm not the only Medicare agent in my town, and it's a growing market. It's a growing field. People are realizing that you can, make good money there, but it is passion. Like, you have to start with like, hey, what is your passion? Why are you doing this? And run with it. Marketing, I would say TV has been a huge marketing thing for us. It's also a big budget item. So number one is our, referrals from current clients. And then number two, I would say, would be our commercials. And we've tried kind of everything, and we kind of still do quite a few different things. But I would say that's probably like the big ticket one that I would say we get a good return on.
Huh.
And
Cool.
events.
So just to recap this really quick here before we move on, location is obviously a huge part. Networking, you have to be your own number one fan. You have to have the courage to get out there. TV works if it's doable for you. And you've done such a great job at marketing. And I heard a story that I want you to share, but it was something to do with you being at an airport, right? And you're somewhat of a celebrity in the area you're in, right?
I know, I try not to think about it because it's like, I'm like, it's like, it is kind of wild because my face is like on bus benches and like on the TV. But I've had a couple things. Yeah, the airport one, I'm going to like check in, and the guy was like, I didn't realize we had a local celebrity here. He's like, I don't need to see your ID, not to get them probably not in trouble. But yeah,
Yeah.
so they just like printed it. One time I went to cash, like I did a cash a check at my bank, and it was, a decent amount, and they were like, oh, we don't need to see I don't need to see your ID. I know who you are. I see you on TV all the time. And I'm like,
Oh my
hopefully I don't
gosh.
have a phone. No, because yeah, so it is kind of funny.
How much
Marketing
is a TV
definitely
ad?
works.
How much does a TV ad cost?
That's a good question. So I know that it's like per one that you do is based off of the rate, and then based off of the market where you're at. Like, our market's a smaller market, so it's not going to be as expensive as if we were, in the Denver metro market or something like that. But our budget kind of grew from, $500 a month, and now we're probably at about 80,000 a year on TV is what we spend. So I mean, it was a progression though. It wasn't just like, I started out small and then it kind of evolved from there. But
Yeah, you can get a lot of that subsidized too if you're with the right upline. Is that right?
yes, so based off of performance, there is marketing dollars that you can get. So if you're performing, or you have like, hey, I'm going to perform, it's kind of like prove that you're here. And that was kind of my thing too. I'm a bubbly younger person for the Medicare space. I'm not that young, but younger for the Medicare world. That like, I did have some obstacles and some challenges with that too, with just like, overcoming like some of these things that like, hey, I'm here to stay, I'm here to do the right thing, and I'm here to make money and grow my business and help people. And it took like probably 3 years to kind of like get that, and now another 3 years on top of that, and I have a ton of support, and I'm so grateful. But yeah, just put yourself out there, do a good job, and do the right thing by the carriers, and they'll do right by you.
Okay, I want to ask about this most recent AEP where you guys absolutely killed it. But leading up to AEP, a lot of things happened internally. However much you want to share with
Yeah.
what happened right before you went into AEP, go ahead and share that with the audience, because I think it was a really good example of a redemption story.
Yeah, I feel like, as you grow, you hit these challenges, and I'm a faith person, so I feel like, God almost like you have, not that he brings them, but you go through these things and you come out on the other side and it's like you're elevating and you're kind of like leveling up. And I've had to go through so many different challenges through these past 6 years, that it's kind of crazy. But this most recent one, was really kind of hard for me because I get close, I get connected, and I had a group of employees that I kind of built out. So 12 employees, and I was really close to them. Probably like, some of them best friends or like friendly. And I ended up having like a massive staff turnover, like right before AEP. It was almost kind of like that, like dagger to the back that you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Like, there's no way I'm going to be able to like do this. How am I going to make it through? And, honestly, not to plug Medicare Masterclass, but to totally do that, like, there's no way. I had 3 new people start, and I was like, I'm losing my mind. Like, I just lost all these people. I had to hire new people, and we're like coming up on the busiest time of year, and I've made commitments to fulfill certain obligations and goals that I'm like, I have to, I'm like, I got to do this many policies. Like I have to, like I've committed to this. And so I got them on Medicare Masterclass right away. And they went through that course, and that's all they did for 3 weeks straight. I was like, all you do is that. And they outperformed way more than I could have ever imagined. And we did more new business with less staff and 3 new people. So I think we had maybe 1 or 2, maybe 1 or 2 less agents. And then about half of us were new, and the other half were like, had been around. So, or maybe even a little more than half were new. It was crazy, but one of them did. So my top agent, they both did about the same amount, which was like 300 policies in just AEP. Wow. So it was like for him to go from like coming on in August to like October 15th and being like, bam, I was so impressed. But it was wild because there's no way I could have given that much time and went through that many scenarios with them that it all covered. So that was kind of our redemption story. But yeah, I'm so glad it turned out the way it did.
Wow. You went from 12 staff to 3 staff, and those 3 outperformed your prior 12. How would you have trained them if it wasn't for Medicare Masterclass traditionally any other year?
I'm not gonna lie, it would have been probably kind of disorganized. Hey, you sit with this person today. Hey, you go over here and sit with them and watch them. Probably them sitting there sometimes like, I don't really know what to do. And then me coming by and being like, okay, do this, do that. So it would have been kind of, more frantic. And I feel like the way it was so like, just a process of start to finish and just methodical in some ways of going through everything that I mean, there's just no way. I mean, some of the stuff that we thought of, like even in that Medicare Masterclass, like it took a lot of brainstorming. Like we were up some nights, till like midnight, 11 o'clock at night, and trying to like, okay, what's everything? Let's put this together the right way. And so it's definitely been a game changer for sure.
Yeah, for those who are unfamiliar with Medicare Masterclass is a training platform that Ashely, myself, and Jesse Dreyer put together last year. And it's really designed to be the most comprehensive training for insurance agents who sell Medicare. And there's a talk path that we call the 7-step talk path that is a roadmap from the beginning of a interaction to the very end. So how to first get their attention, how to get the proper information from them and do the right needs analysis, how to do a quick crash course of what Medicare is, help them find the right plan, because there's so many different scenarios that they could be in. They could be on an Advantage plan, they could be on a Med-South plan, they could be a VA. And what you did, Ashely, was you gave all the top scenarios that exist. If someone comes to you with this scenario, here's a very simple step-by-step process on how to handle that particular client. And you even recorded a live example sitting with an individual who you sold Medicare to. So there's real demonstrations on how to sell Medicare. And of course, for agency owners who want to scale and hire people and not just be a one person operation, there's training for agency owners that you and Jesse recorded. So it's a great platform for anyone who wants to enroll. Just simply go to MedicareMasterclass.com to learn more. But that said, when you look at the future of your agency, Ashely, being 6 years in, you've scaled it to the point that you've scaled it. In the next 6 years, what is it that you want to accomplish with your agency?
Oh, that's such a good question. I feel like in life in general, like everything that I've like wanted, maybe per se, my life hasn't naturally like went that course. I'm so grateful to be where I'm at, and I never really like thought of myself as like having, you know, this big business and like success. And if for me, it would really just be seeing like the lives of my employees and the people around me be elevated, and watching them do milestone things like buy houses and, you know, get new cars. And for me, I think I like the idea of growth. Like I like growing, just because it's fun. It's always a challenge, but I don't really have like, I guess I've kind of reached a place where I'm like, wow, I never even thought I would be here. So I don't even know like exactly where to go with it. I'm still young-ish. I'm 37. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm definitely not retiring because then I'd be bored. But and I love what I do. So I think just kind of really expanding in our market and really kind of doing more training and educational just to see, I want to hear like those cool stories, you know, where people are like, I did this, you know, and thanks to your training, or, you know, something like that. Just being able to help people, I think, is my motivation.
Yeah, and just to kind of double down on that idea, you're at the stage in your life where you want to give back, and you want
Mm-hmm.
to do best by your staff, but at the same time, they have to perform in order to be on your team.
Yeah.
And this is a question that I personally want to know. What do you expect from your staff sales wise per month, not during AEP, not during OEP, throughout the other months of the year? How many policies must they sell per month?
So it's 20 to 40 a month is kind of our expectation per agent. So right now, our agents for January, when we got to the 156, we're doing one hit 40. The rest were somewhere in the 20s, and then somewhere in the like 30. So that's kind of our next phase of like growth, is kind of getting, you know, building structure, building systems, making sure they understand like all the cross-sell opportunities, and just really making sure that they know how to fully educate the clients, so that if they need additional plans or services, that we're able to facilitate that. And so that's what we're really like working on right now. And obviously the more sales for them, then it's, you know, more commission for them too. And so it's just like a win-win. Yeah. And Jesse always says to me too, he's like, Ashely, you have to remember, we are a for-profit business. If we're not for profit, then we're out of business. So he's definitely like, we're like yin and yang. So we definitely really complement each other, and kind of like, you know, pulling out like my dreams and like being able to still like have everything, you know, managed and taken care of. And because I know everyone, you need to make a profit for sure.
Yeah. One thing that I wanted to ask, because hearing the story about how you had the turnover is crazy to think about, and just hearing everything and how it's happened in what most would consider a short amount of time, right? I mean, 6 years, a lot of people go through things like this when they're in there for 10, 15, 20 years in the game. But let's say that I'm a newer agent, right? I'm just starting out. I'm 12 months in, maybe 18 months into my career. What are like 2 or 3 big things that I should be focusing on moving forward from there?
I would say definitely like having a marketing plan and a retention plan would be something really important, and then a growth plan. So how are you going to market? Like, what are your ideas? What's been successful, and a way to track that. So, when I first started, I didn't really like track it. It was just like I was doing most of the sales too, primarily myself. And so I just ask people, started getting feedback, but then, you get to where you're multiple sales agents, you got to have some kind of method of tracking, your marketing and seeing where it's actually coming from. And that way you can invest more dollars into the things that are actually working. And then I would say, you got to have a growth plan. Like, where do you want to go from here? What are you looking at? And, yeah, I would say like, you need to focus on those things for sure.
Right. Okay. Now, how, what do you think the best way to track your marketing is?
So we have, with Medicare, you have to do a scope of appointment. So we find out right when they call in, hey, how did you hear about us? And then you have to do those 48-hour scopes now. And so we collect that information at that time before, and then we have like our different marketing things that we do, and we just ask how did they hear about us? And then we just put in the response, and then we're able to track it when we actually make sales. Then we look back and we can see, what things worked, and then maybe what things are not really worth it. And that's kind of something too that I'm looking at this year. Like, okay, what things are really working, and maybe I double down there and maybe not spend that 5,000-10,000 on this other thing.
Yeah. Was there anything in terms of marketing that you didn't think was going to work? You're like, man, I don't know about this. This doesn't seem right. And then it ended up being really good.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I mean, on the TV, I was kind of skeptical at first, and it really kind of took a couple months to start actually seeing a return on investment. So I was like, are they even running the ad? Like, what's going on? Like, I don't know if this is like really working.
Yeah.
So that one was kind of like, and that's kind of what I've realized in marketing too, is it's like, you got to give it a certain length of time that you're consistently doing it to really kind of see that return. But I think that's probably the one that I was most surprised, like, I was worried about and then most surprised by is that
Yeah.
it did catch on around a couple of months.
Did you ever see your own ad on TV where you're just kind of hanging out and you're like, oh,
Yeah, all the time. I've been like getting my nails done, and then I'll like pop up on TV, or like I'll be eating
and
at a
everybody in the
restaurant.
salon's like, oh, she's here. That's her.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, it's kind of a weird feeling, but I'm just like,
Yeah.
Always got to advertise. And that's
yeah.
what we do with Medicare Masterclass. Always got to plug what you feel like is best for the people around you. So, Ashely, thanks so much for doing this interview. Moving forward, we're going to bring on great guests that people can learn from. And if you guys have a particular guest in mind that you would like to hear from in the comment section, let us know if you want to be a guest or if you have a recommendation for guests. We're exploring all of our options, and we want to talk to the very best in the industry. With that, thanks again for anyone who tuned in, and Ashely for doing the interview. Have a great day.
Oh, thank you.